In this video, I will convert local date to date object in our Java application. The local date represents a date in the format quote y dash mm dash dd, such as 20190508. We can use following method and constructor to create a date object. Date.from, and it accepts instant. It obtains an instance of date from an instant object. We can use zoned date time or timestamp to get instant. The zoned date time and timestamp can be obtained using local date time, and local date time can be obtained using local date. Another method is date. It requires time as a long constructor that creates date object and initializes it to represent a specified number of milliseconds. We can use timestamp.getTime to get time in milliseconds. So we have two approach, date.from and date constructor that requires time as a long, and date.from requires instant. Let's see by example. First of all, I am using the date.from. So I need an instant. First of all, let's instantiate the local date. I'm accessing it as a current time local date dot now. It will give the current local date. Then local date has a method dot add time because instant needs time and local date has not time. So to create an instant we need time. So call local date dot add time, and suppose I am adding local time dot midnight, and to add zone call its add zone method, and here I am taking it as a zone id dot system default. Okay, in this way add zone gives us zoned date time, and zoned date time has a method to instant that will convert that zoned date time into instant. Okay, so add zone returns zone date time, and then we are calling to instant method on zoned date time. In this way we got the instant object. First of all, what did it? We call the add time method, added time as a midnight, then added zone, and finally we got zoned date time, and by zoned date time we are calling to instant method. Now I have instant object, so now call the date.from and pass that instant, and finally we will get the date object. Let's run it, and this is the date object. Okay, this was the first approach. Now let's see the another example. Here what I'm doing, that I'm getting getting the zoned date time with at start of day, passing zone id, and in this way we have zoned date time and then call the to instant. The difference is that in the first method we used at start time, at time we call the at time. Now we are using at start day, at start of day, and finally we will call to instant to get the instant object, and now call date.from. We can also get instant from the timestamp. Let's see how. This is local date time. Now I'm getting instant from the local date. I'm creating the timestamp object. Okay, and then add time local date time at midnight. Then I'm calling the to instant. This is timestamp dot value of local date, and I'm calling add time. I'm passing, as we have done in the first example, local time dot midnight, and finally we got this local date time instance, and then call timestamp dot value of and pass the local date time. In this way, we got timestamp object, and timestamp object has two instant method, and finally we got the instant object, and then pass it to the date.from. In this way, we converted it. Now let's see one more example. I have instantiated local date time. I have a current time. This is I have instantiated a local date using the current time, and then I have instantiated timestamp by calling the value of method in this way as we did in previous example. Now we have a constructor of date, and we can pass the time as a long. We will call get time. It returns the number of milliseconds since January 1, 1970, represented by this timestamp object. Okay, and in this way we can get the date object. So finally what we did is that we need date.from and have to use instant object, or we can use the constructor of date and pass the milliseconds as long. Okay, thank you.